Syafiqah Binti Aziz. My matrix number is 276907. So today I'm going to talk about the impact of household expenditure during COVID-19 pandemic in Malacca. In 2019, Malaysia are facing COVID-19 pandemic and many scenarios had significant impact on the global economy in a short period of time. Following the global spread of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Movement Control Order (MCO) required the closing of nation borders and the repatriation of immigrants to their respective nation. In this research, we focus more on the population in Malacca due to the impact of household expenditure during pandemic COVID-19. Until 2020, the total population of Malacca reported is 0.94 million and the average annual population growth rate increased from 0.4% in 2020 to 0.6% in 2021. According to the OSM, MCO impact the household consumption across all populations. This is because the average consumer spending excluding financial expenditure dropped by 1,922 ringgit, 48% to 2,110 ringgit under MCO. Problem statement: the impact of COVID-19 towards the household expenditure are huge and affect groups of people globally, and interventions such as wearing face masks, good hand hygiene, and social distancing to control the pandemic require people to buy and get the preventive measures, which could further exacerbate the economic burden of low household income families and the expenditure toward the household at the same time increasing. All the sectors has dropped the income, and automatically the price of product will increase because of the quantity of supply decrease. We have 4 research questions which are: what are the demographic characteristics of society in Malacca? Do gender differences affect the household spending styles, household living standard, and household income in Malacca during the COVID-19 pandemic? Do different districts affect the household spending style, household living standard, household income in Malacca during the COVID-19 pandemic? And does household spending, living standard, and level of income have a significant relationship with household expenditure among households at Malacca during pandemic COVID-19? We also have 4 objectives, which are to examine the demographic characteristics of household expenditure in Malacca during COVID-19 pandemic, to examine whether gender differences affect the household spending style, household living standard, and household income in Malacca during the COVID-19 pandemic, to examine whether different districts affect the household spending style, household living standard, and household income in Malacca during the COVID-19 pandemic, and to examine the relationship between spending style, living standard, and level of income with household expenditure at Malacca during COVID-19 pandemic. Next theories. First, household expenditure. Household expenditure is total amount of money spent by a household on goods and services. The measure is frequently expressed in the terms of total expenditure on various goods and services. Expenditure theory proposed by Yu Sanberry in 1949 referred as the life cycle theory of consumption expenditure. This hypothesis implies that an individual's intended household expenditure pattern is determined by their lifetime income aspiration rather than present disposable money. Second, household income. Income of a household is defined as the total sum of gross income earned by all the residents of a home who are older than a particular age criteria. Household income was utilized as a proxy for human welfare. This definition of household income and its components vary. Third, living standard. Living standard is an idea that is difficult to grasp, has a diverse view and full of contradictions, conflicts, and contrasts. Focus more on material consumption and through measure of satisfaction, categorized into theories of basic needs, universal values, human rights, and human capital. Lastly, household spending constantly of 3 things: food, housing, and transportation, amount that a household pays annually on a variety of essentials consisting of both durable and non-durable goods. After that, there are 4 contents methods of analysis. First, descriptive analysis. Data analysis that assists in a creation of patterns that satisfy all of the data's needs. Then, independent sample t-test assess whether differences between the 2 means of 2 groups are significant. One-way ANOVA. ANOVA analysis the variation in groups means within a sample while only considering one independent variable or factor. And lastly, Pearson correlation analysis, that is the relationship between 2 variables. Next instrument, our dependent variable is household expenditure. Household expenditure is a measure of the amount of money spent by a household on all purchases of goods and services over a certain time period, usually in present value currency terms. Meanwhile, independent variable number 1 is a spending styles that may appear to be straightforward guideline to follow in order to fulfill the requirement or gratification of an individual, and this is the questionnaire for the spending style. Second, living standard. The disposable income of a household divided by the number of consumer units is the formula of determining the standards of living for the household, and this is the questionnaire on household living standards. Third independent variable for household income, the aggregate gross income of all members of a household over a certain age, and this is the questionnaire of household income during COVID-19 pandemic. Lastly, gender differences effect. Significant gender bias was discovered in a number of sectors, including education and income, with the imbalance being significantly stronger in countries economically underdeveloped parts. Gender bias test scores were also shown to differ significantly between families with varying levels of adult literacy. Independent sample t-test. The table showed the independent sample t-test between gender and spending style, household living standards, and household income effect of household expenditure during COVID-19 pandemic at Malacca. Meanwhile, the one-way ANOVA will be used to test the hypothesis to answer the third objective. One-way ANOVA analysis was conducted to determine whether there is a significant relationship between residential areas and household spending, household living standard, and household income. Pearson correlation analysis is used to test whether there is a relationship between household spending styles, household living standards, and household income on the effect household expenditure during COVID-19 pandemic at Malacca. And this is the result of Pearson correlation of study variables. Next, summary of findings. This study examines the impact of household expenditure during pandemic COVID-19 in Malacca. The independent sample t-test was used to determine if the gender influenced the household expenditure. We have 3 policy implications, which are hiring incentive program is under Perkeso, which is known as Penjana Kerjaya. Emergency saving plans could be held for B40 group due to low monthly payment. The government has provided Bantuan Prihatin Nasional (BPN) that focusing B40 and M40 group to reduce the burden of this group during this pandemic and to increase household cash flow. Then the problem and limitation for this research are limited to certain areas when collecting data for analysis and lacks of diversity in terms of the sample use. Lastly, suggestion for future studies. Future research involving the approach that will include students from other residence areas. Social media can be used to reach respondents and collect data.